Hi, this is Dr. Rodney Davis, and I'm an associate professor at Troy University, and it is my pleasure to bring some opening comments for this conference in Baguio City, dealing with research, education, science, and the social praxis. And I think this forum that has been scheduled by the people at Asian Intellect is a great time to look at what's going on in research. So you can see the theme for this event is A New Age is Dawning in Research for 2020. And so what I'm going to do over the next few moments, and believe me, it will be just a brief thumbnail sketch of what's actually going on in research, is to kind of set some parameters for the theme, to kind of make the theme a real idea in your mind as you consider research, and you're going to be listening to some research at this event. So let's set that framework by looking at three areas that I think are changing in research in higher education, and how they are going to have a fairly significant impact on what's going on in this field of research. The idea of a new age dawning is one that I've talked about before at several conferences that Julie Calma has organized there in the Philippines. And I like the idea, the concept of dawn associated with a new age, because I think things are changing in higher education, how we conduct research. Not only that we have to conduct research, the idea of publish or perish is one that's been around for nearly 100 years. But what I think is happening is there is a definite process at work in how we conduct research. And I'm not even really talking about what we're researching, because that changes dramatically from year to year. But what I'm talking about is some ideas that are germinating with researchers as to how we're going to do research in the next year and the years to come. I also like the idea of dawn, because while some may say sunrise is an event, dawn seems to be a little less specific. It's a little more vague, and so I liken that to a process. And so what we're going to see over the next year or so, and even beyond, will be some process changes in research, how we actually get research accomplished, and the tools that we use to publish our research, for sure. The first area that I see having a dramatic impact on research is just the availability of places to publish one's research. And that has grown over the last 100 years. Just a number of publications that are out there available for anyone to access on a myriad of topics and addressing a myriad of disciplines. Just this past week, I got 3 different calls for papers, and you'll see them in your email from time to time, where a journal has been produced and they're looking for people to submit manuscripts, and they address education, sciences, business, and a host of other disciplines. And so they're continually looking for people to submit their manuscripts. Many of these journals are online, and from what I understand in looking into these journals, right now there are about 100,000 journals in the United States, and I'm sure there are even more when you factor in other countries. But just the United States, 100,000 journals. And almost 95% of those journals offer both a print and an electronic journal. And about 50% of that offer solely an electronic journal. So how we publish our findings has changed. We have greater access to places to publish. So if we don't get in a Tier 1 journal, there are plenty of Tier 2 journals. And really, there are plenty of Tier 1 journals out there if we're willing to do the research to find them. But there are plenty of journals. So if you get rejected by one, the good news is there are a lot of other places where you can publish that idea of yours, that manuscript of yours. But then the other thing that I see changing is that because they're going electronic, I think that more people are going to have access to your work. And that's a big deal, because a print journal, you had to subscribe to it, or your library at your university had to subscribe to it. That was about the only way that you would see some of these articles historically. But with the internet, we, in places that now warehouse or archives those journals, we have access to these articles and manuscripts far longer than we would in any print journal. As a matter of fact, the library at Troy University typically keeps a journal between 2 and 5 years in the library, and then they've run out of room, and so they discard them. But with an electronic journal, they can store those for 5, 10, or 100 years, I suppose, if they wanted to. So the idea that your work is going to be out there much longer is important. So even though your research may have a limited shelf life, in other words, it's going to have a limited impact before it becomes outdated, accessing that for historical purposes is going to be important. So when it comes to publications, remember this: you're having a greater variety of journals in which to publish, and also that they are out there in an electronic format where your work will be stored for a longer period of time. Now, this is not going to change how we evaluate the impact of the research, how the journals decide which articles to publish and which ones not to publish, but it's going to increase the field of potential journals in which you can publish. Secondly, I think that this new age is giving us opportunities in how we present that are different from ones in the past. Historically, when you had a paper to present, you went to a conference, you paid a fee to participate in that conference, you presented your research with a PowerPoint presentation, and then you were done. And if it was not recorded audio, or they didn't record the video, pretty much that presentation was lost and you could never use it again. What I think is changing now with new digital technology, people having video cameras on their cell phone, having a lot of different modalities that they can bring to bear on how they get their information out, means that many conferences now are offering tracks that are video only, where the presenter records a video of them doing a presentation and then submits that video for the organizers to download and play during a session. Now, I know that that still is not the optimal way to present your findings, and for me, I'm here presenting my ideas to you via this video. And yes, I would much rather be in Baguio City at the hotel there, because I've been to that hotel before, the Legacy, and I really like the hotel, and I like meeting people and talking with people. But the reality is, it's not always convenient for me to travel back and forth to the Philippines. I typically am only there 2 months a year. That's the amount of time I can get away. So in between those times, then the only way to get my ideas out to you is to do these videos. So yes, I understand it's not optimal, but I think also for researchers who are in institutions where there isn't a lot of money for travel, that this may be a way for them to still participate in scholarly conferences. And this is also a way that they can preserve their research for other generations. Others can benefit from these videos that were developed for one event. So I think that presentation is going to be a new venue for a lot of researchers. But that's not to mention that that's the only change that I think is happening. I think that the technology that we're seeing now is making it possible for live video presentations, and we have several here in the United States that we can access that would allow us to do these live, as long as the internet access, say in the Philippines, is consistent and strong. You could even do this event live. So I think those kinds of changes are going to have a continued effect on how we present our findings to the public in forums such as this. Lastly, I think the partnerships that we create are going to increase, as they have begun to already. The partnerships between higher ed and K-12 schools is increasing. I spoke on this just a few weeks ago at a conference dealing with how important this partnership can be, because researchers have to conduct their studies. They need K-12 schools in which to conduct this research, and classroom teachers need to be involved in that research activity so that they can be promoted. There is a unique opportunity here for higher ed and K-12 to get together to work on research that is mutually interesting to both parties. And so I think we're going to see more of that. But that's not the only area. I think there's going to be opportunities for higher ed and business to connect, higher ed and government to connect, to do research that's needed to be done, and then to present it in a journal or in a conference somewhere. So I think that we're going to see a greater explosion of partnerships, not only within a country, because I think that's probably where it's going to start, but I think we're going to see transnational partnerships where professors of the United States are partnering with professors in China and working on common research questions and exploring those topics. So I think that is an area to be watching in the next year or so to see how these partnerships develop. And conferences such as this one would be a great place to find a partner, someone who shares your interests and wants to explore the same things that you do. So partnership is going to be something to watch in this new dawn. Well, I've really enjoyed spending these few minutes with you. I hope that you have a great conference this afternoon, and I know tomorrow you're going to hear from participants as they share their research, and that's always exciting to see what areas people are investigating and how that can be beneficial. So, as always, I give you my good wishes for a great conference, and look forward to seeing you at a future one sometime. Take care now.